What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Copy and Narrate. And today's stories come from r/am I the butthole. And today's first story comes from AITA showery. Am I the butthole for peeing in my friend's shower? I, 22, female to male, was staying at a friend's place a few months ago over my spring break. Let's call her Natalie, 23, female. Natalie and I have been friends for a while, but we haven't been able to hang out as much since she graduated last year and has been working. This was my first time seeing her new place and our first time spending the night together. Before anyone gets the wrong idea, there are absolutely no romantic or sexual feelings between us. Now, as a guy without the right anatomy, I am unable to enjoy the wonders of peeing standing up most of the time. Stand to pee devices scare me, and so I simply sit. However, when I shower, I can pee however I'd like. It just goes down the drain and washes off my leg if I aim badly. I shower every night before bed, and I basically always pee. It's just really satisfying for me. I don't really talk to my friends about my peeing habits, but my whole family pees in the shower as well, and I just assumed it was normal. Last week, me and Natalie were hanging out with some of our friends. Somehow we started about talking about peeing, and so of course peeing in the shower came up. Many of my also non-genitally male-inclined friends agreed with me that it's so nice to be able to stand for once, and many of my male genital having friends even agreed as well. However, not everyone felt that way, and there was a bit of an awkward silence afterwards. Natalie approached me later and nervously asked me if I had peed in her shower, and I said yes. She got really upset and the whole thing got really awkward. She kinda shuffled away, and we sort of avoided each other for the rest of the evening. Later, one of our mutual friends texted me to tell me Natalie was really uncomfortable to learn that I peed in her shower, and she was reconsidering whether she would ever let me stay with her again. I texted her about it directly and apologised, but she hasn't replied yet. So, am I the butthole for peeing in her shower? And Opie's offered the explanation for why they think they might be the butthole. I think I might be the butthole because I just assumed it would be okay to pee in her shower without asking first, and it clearly upset her. And someone replies to this, not the arsehole. If you pooped in the shower and Waffle stomped it down the drain, then you'd be the butthole. And someone else replies, you're the butthole. What you do in your home is not what necessarily do in another person's home. This was disrespectful. And another person says, you're the butthole. Your shower, you do what you want. Someone else's home, you use the damn toilet. You would not be staying at my home again after I learned that. And someone replies to that, wait until you learn that people wash their genitals and butts in the shower. Yeah. Now for me, Opie, in this one, you are not gonna be the butthole at all. Like, this is like so stupid. I don't even know how to describe this, right? Right, she's upset. Opie's friend's upset that Opie peed in the shower. But that's not even the grossest thing that goes down the shower. There's so many bodily fluids and stuff that go down that shower. Like dead skin cells, dandruff, hair, body hair, sweat, blood. Like everything off your body goes down there. You know, like gunk, all sorts of crap that's on your skin goes down that drain. And to be like, oh, well, you can't be in the shower, that's disgusting, you should use the toilet. It's the same drain, and I don't care how clean you are, right? There's always gonna be ammonia on your skin somewhere. There's always gonna be, you know, poo particles on your skin somewhere, no matter how well you wipe and clean and everything. Like, here's the thing, right? Every time you pass gas, even if it's a small amount, guess what comes out? Poo particles. And guess where they go? On your skin. That's just the reality of life. And even if you don't think that you are farting, you still do pass wind. That's just a natural bodily habit. It happens. So, all this crap's going down the shower anywhere. And the logic of this is that if you want to pee, then what you should do is, if you need to pee while you're in the shower, is get fully dry, like turn the shower off, get fully dry and everything, to use the toilet, to then get back in the shower and finish getting clean. At which point, you're still going to be getting peed down the shower because you've just peed, right? Makes no sense. It's so stupid. Like, people need to, like, not be so sensitive about really dumb stuff like this. I'm not gonna give the friend, like, a butthole score. She has the right to feel the way she feels. It's just really, really dumb, the way she feels. Because, in reality, there's so much crap going down that shower. Like, if she cleans the shower out and she, like, actually takes the drainage plug out and has a look inside, she's gonna be freaking horrified by what she finds down there. It's gonna be a lot worse than B. Trust me, anyone that's ever pulled up their own shower drain knows what's down there, and it ain't pretty. Ain't pretty when you clean that out, that's for sure. Moving on. Our next story comes from Cookie Cranberry 6583. Am I the butthole for fainting at my aunt's wedding and ruining it? I, 21 female, attended my aunt's wedding a few weeks ago. I was not part of the wedding, just a guest, which I was fine with. Before the wedding, everyone was advised to drink lots of water and eat beforehand because it was going to be extremely hot that day. The wedding started at 5 PM and I had absolutely nothing to eat or drink up until then, except maybe a granola bar because I was extremely busy that day. So when it was time for the wedding, I was already tired and hungry. About 30 minutes into the wedding, which was at a church by the way, I was feeling uneasy and lightheaded, so I excused myself to go to the washroom. As I was walking, I got that feeling like I was about to collapse. The next thing I can remember was coming to and see lots of people surrounding me, including the bride and groom. Apparently when I had fainted, I fell onto one of the photographers, who was crouched down near me. Not only that, but he dropped the camera lens down and it broke. To be honest, I don't even remember seeing the photographer, but I may have been too dizzy or something to have seen him. The wedding was a bit on the cheaper side, so the photographer was a family friend of the groom's who only had one camera with him. The bride was just in tears that she won't have any good pictures from her wedding. The photographer insisted that he could drive home and grab a different one, but it would take too long. The bride was indeed mad at me, but I feel it was a bit harsh as it was extremely embarrassing for me already. Fainting never even crossed my mind as something that would happen at all. They did get pictures, but they were on cell phones. Am I the butthole? And before we get into the comments on this one, I'm gonna say, Opie, what the hell were you thinking? Like, you're gonna go to a wedding, right? And there's an extremely hot weather warning, right? Like, people know this in advance, because clearly people knew this in advance, because people told you to drink lots of water and make sure that you've eaten because it's gonna be extremely hot that day. So you've got an extreme weather warning in your country, and rather than listening to the extreme weather warning, you think that apparently the sun doesn't apply to you, and that heat doesn't apply to you, and that if it's going to be extremely hot, that you're not going to get dehydrated, that you're not going to get heat exhaustion. Like, what? Are you crazy, OP? Like, seriously, you are lucky because the reason to give out them warnings is so people ensure that they drink and stay hydrated and cool and stuff, so hospitals don't get overrun with people, because heat exhaustion isn't a joke. You can literally die or end up really, really sick for a long time. Like, it's really damaging to your body and can have really bad side effects if it's left untreated. Also, he says, like, the camera guy dropped the lens, but he didn't drop the lens. You collapsed on him, which made him drop the lens. So he didn't drop the lens, like, oh, he was there and he just accidentally dropped it. You fell on him. Let's get into the comments. OP is offers the following explanation why they think they might be the arsehole. Well, for starters, we were told to drink water and eat beforehand, which I didn't do. And second, I ruined the only camera which was to be used for the wedding. Coffee Mom 23 says, I mean, kinda you're the butthole, sorry. Obviously, you didn't mean to faint, that wasn't in your control. But by your own admission, you didn't eat or drink all day, even though you knew it was going to be very hot and you'd been advised to take precautions. You don't seem to feel particularly bad about breaking the photographer's camera lens when you fell, because it was a cheaper wedding. It's very soft, you're the butthole, since none of this was intentional, but it sounds like you were negligent and then not particularly concerned about the consequences for other people. And another commenter says, bride and groom, make sure you eat and drink lots of water because it's going to be hot. You, too busy, can't be bothered. And then you faint and take out the photographer. You're the butthole. Gadget Girl says, you're the butthole. You were warned that you should eat and drink before the wedding. Why? Because things like fainting and heat exhaustion are real. You ignored the advice, you fainted as a result. You could have gotten a pass if you hadn't fallen on the photographer, but you did. Because of your choices, the bride does not have the wedding photograph she wanted. She has every right to be really angry at you, as your actions led to that consequence. It doesn't matter that you didn't intend for it to happen. What matters is that you ignored their advice, and the bride suffered as a result. And yeah, I fully agree with all of that. Like, I fully agree. I think on this one, I'm gonna give OP 5 out of 10 buttholes. I feel like 5 out of 10 buttholes is fair. It's very hard to tell from the post if it was intentional, and you wouldn't think that someone would intentionally do something to harm themselves, right? But people are kind of weird like that sometimes, and she clearly didn't listen to the advice. And this isn't just advice from friends either. This is like advice from the government. Countries, when they're having like a heat wave, issue warnings and warn people to ensure that they stay hydrated. So it's not like OP didn't know and it was like just some random person telling them, right? Like everyone knew about this, and all the other guests managed to make sure that they drank and stayed hydrated and didn't get heat exhaustion. Bobby just didn't eat or drink all day and then wondered why they passed out when it was like super hot. Moving on. Our next story comes from Fit Report 5909. Am I the butthole for requiring that guests change clothes before they sit on my furniture? Oh boy, this one's gonna be a doozy. This is a throwaway. I'm 20 male and I live alone. I'm a very neat person. My mother kept our house pristine growing up, and I helped her for as long as I can remember. I recently moved out into my own place, and something that I started thinking about was how many germs from outside would track into our houses. I always change out my clothes as soon as I get home. Whenever I have guests, they don't, and I have no idea where they've been or what their clothes have been exposed to. About a month ago, I bought a bunch of those clear disposable raincoats, and I started telling people who I invited over that they could bring a change of fresh clothes to change into, or wear one of the coats before they sit on my furniture. What? I also offered to wash the clothes that they change out of if they want to. What am I reading? My girlfriend doesn't have a problem with this and started just leaving clothes at my place. My mom and my little sister have also been okay with this new rule. But I invited a friend over yesterday. I told them about the clothes thing before they came, and when they got there, they were surprised that I actually enforced it and said, "You've got to be effing with me." I told them no, I'm serious, and then they left. They haven't been answering my messages either. I was talking to my mum about it today, and she said it was pretty excessive and unreasonable to expect everybody to do. I disagree, but I'm kind of double guessing myself. Am I in the wrong here? And before we get in the comments, I'm going to say, yes, OP, you're in the wrong here. Oh my god, you expect people to bring a fresh change of clothes to your house to get changed into? And then what's even creepier is the clothes that they came in, you offer to wash them? Why? And also your friend, I can understand why he didn't bring like a change of clothes and just came over, and then you were like, where's your change of clothes? And he was like, I thought you were effing with me, because I would think that you were playing like a practical joke, or like this was like some sort of weird thing. But let's get into the comments, shall we? You're the butthole and need therapy. I don't say that disparagingly at all. I sincerely think you would benefit from professional help. And I agree on this way. It seems like OP's got some sort of OCD or some aversion like disorder, because their actions aren't, reasonable. You're the butthole, you have OCD, my friend. Yes, there are germs out there, but the likelihood of them doing harm to you is near zero. This type of thing gets worse over time, to get help now. And I agree with both those commenters. I don't think there's any more that I can add to that. You're definitely the butthole in this OP, and it does seem like you've got some sort of compulsion or aversion to what's going on. I don't know whether it's OCD. Specifically, it could be, you said that you're a neat person, and like, there's a difference between being neat and like keeping things tidy and being very excessive in what you do. And this is excessive, expecting people to bring a change of clothes to your house just so they can sit on your furniture. It's also very, very excessive to then try and wash their clothes. It's a bit weird, and I can understand why your friend stopped talking to you, because I'd be a little unnerved and creeped out, and yeah, please do get help, OP. I don't want to give a super harsh rating on this because it does seem like OP's got some problems going on here. So I'm just going to give 3 out of 10 buttholes because what they did wasn't really harming anyone, and they weren't really like, you know, awful or nasty to someone. But it is kind of a very buttholey thing to do, to be like, oh, well, you need to bring a change of clothes because you're dirty, right? That's basically what OP's conveying to people, is that they think that they're dirty, and that will upset people when you tell them, where's your change of clothes? You're dirty, right? Our next story comes from Aggressive by 4075. Am I the butthole for calling my daughter's father Spineless and his girlfriend creepy over their name choice for their daughter? A little bit of context for you all. I ended up falling pregnant with my 10-year-old daughter during a drunken hookup with a friend in my mid-20s. Not the most glamorous or flattering truth, but it's the truth all the same. When we found out, we decided to keep the child and co-parent while remaining friends. We were never a couple, and we didn't want to be one either. 4 years ago, he began to date his long-term girlfriend, and they moved in together last year. She fell pregnant, and I've been supportive to both of them, as much as I could be, without crossing any lines. I've encouraged my daughter to help out whenever she's staying with them during the pregnancy and to behave. I've also made it clear that I want the children to have a close relationship despite having different mothers. I've even said that if they were comfortable with it, on nights I have my daughter, if they ever want time alone, I'll babysit once they have the baby, so my daughter can spend time with a sibling. All in all, I thought everything was great and I was excited for my daughter to have a sibling, as she's always wanted one, but I had no interest in having another child. 3 days ago, my friend and his girlfriend had their daughter. They asked me to bring my daughter to the hospital to meet her little sister yesterday, alongside others of the family. So I did exactly that, but when they introduced us to the baby, I was shocked. The name they used was my daughter's name. She didn't seem to have any issue with this when she introduced the baby, bold as brass. My friend seemed uncomfortable and wouldn't look at me directly. I asked them what they were playing at which point my friend's father said he'd take my daughter down to the cafeteria to get something to eat and left with her. My friend told me to calm down and not overreact, while his girlfriend told me she didn't see the issue and it was a pretty name. I asked him if they'd named the baby for my daughter, trying to understand the logic here, but his girlfriend said that no, it was just a pretty name she liked. I then asked if they planned to use a nickname or middle name when addressing her on a daily basis, and her response was that she didn't see a need for that. I told them they were being ridiculous and they couldn't do this. I then told his girlfriend that I found this deeply creepy and told my friend he was being spineless if he was happy to go along with this. He tried to claim our daughter could use a nickname or something, but I shut that down immediately, asking why it was more reasonable for a girl who'd used that name for a decade to shame her name compared to a baby who had no concept of what her name was yet. I think OP meant change her name. His girlfriend told me I was being a bee, talking to her like that, as she just gave birth, and asked the nurses to remove me, saying I was being disrupted. Maybe my temper is running a little too hot though, and I was too harsh on her when she just gave birth. It's just so effing weird. And I'd also like to state, I know that what they want to name their child is their choice. They could have named a dinosaur for all I care, but this is one name that should be off limits or adjusted. They even have the same surname as they have the same father. Something about it just felt malicious and deliberate, as if she's trying to replace my daughter, and for them both to spring it on us like that at the first meeting. No, that was weird. And we're going to hop into the comments on this one. OB has offered the following explanation for why they think that might be the butthole. I got angry and wasn't able to speak calmly or curb my tongue when I learned my daughter's father and his new girlfriend used her name for their baby. I called him spineless and her creepy. I maybe was too harsh considering she just gave birth, and being calm may have served better in the moment. And Parsimonious Salad says, not the butthole, from the outside it sure reads like she wants to replace her partner's affection for his first daughter with his new baby. Of course it's creepy. Another commenter says, not the butthole, this is a calculated move on the part of the girlfriend, and your daughter's douche of a father is too spineless to stand up for her. While no name can be claimed, this is a move full of hate and spite. I would tell your daughter's father that you will be going full custody of your daughter and taking him for child support because you can no longer trust him to do what's right by your daughter. How can you trust that he wouldn't allow his girlfriend to treat your daughter poorly based on this behaviour? Obviously his father agrees with you that this name is not acceptable. I'm sorry, but your daughter is never going to get treated right by her father's girlfriend. She's already trying to replace your daughter by giving her daughter the same name. I don't know if I fully agree with that comment because, yeah, it's like the father's being pretty crappy, but like saying take your daughter away and never let him see her again, that's like extreme. Also, there's no proof that her daughter's father, you know, like the daughter's grandfather agrees. He just took the daughter away because OP was screaming. So for me on this one, I think everyone sucks here. This could be an everyone sucks here. For obvious reasons, the girlfriend and the father suck, right? They both suck. And this one I'm going to give a 6 out of 10 for the father, because he should have really been saying no to this from the beginning and really put his foot down and never let this happen in the first place. I'm going to give 4 out of 10 buttholes to the girlfriend for choosing that name and everything. But here's the reason why OP gets a butthole rating. It's not because of the fact that she's upset about this. She has every right to be upset about this. It's a behaviour in the hospital. It was completely uncalled for. OP even admits in the following explanation, right, that she was unable to control the temper and was screaming and yelling, right? She lost the calm and she was shouting and being aggressive. And that is not okay in a hospital, to the point where the nurses had to physically remove her from the hospital, you know, from the room in the ward. Now, for those that don't understand, physically removing someone does not mean that you put your hands on them and have them removed. It means that they are told to leave somewhere because their physical presence there is disruptive. That's what a physical removal is, just so people understand. It doesn't mean that someone puts their hands on you to remove you. It means that your physical presence is being told to move from where you are. You're no longer allowed to be there or included because your presence is disruptive. And hospitals are a lot more stricter about this, and OP is very, very lucky, because if she was being angry and irate, then the nurses don't have to deal with her. The nurses would have been in every right, call security, and have OP trespassed. Like, that's the way they could have gone. They could have called security, had OP trespassed. So she's very, very lucky there. So OP's going to get 5 out of 10 buttholes. I'm not going to give her more because I can understand her anger because of the name and everything. But the fact that she had to be physically removed is unacceptable. She's an adult, she should be able to control her temper and not lose control like that, even given this situation. And hospital policies are a lot more stricter on this because of the abuse that patients and nurses face from other guests and patients, right? So OP is very, very lucky that they didn't get in trouble for this. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Our next story comes from Normal Selection 2924. Am I the butthole for telling my female? Am I the butthole for telling female 24, maid of honour, female 23, I hated my bachelorette party and having another one without her? I'm female 24, getting married next week, and my sister, female 23, is my maid of honour. This weekend we had my bachelorette party, and we originally agreed that all bridesmaids, my best friend, female 25, and my 3 close friends, male 24 to 27, would organise it. But I later found out that my sister excluded everyone else because it should be the maid of honour's job, and just showed up with a fully booked plan before the others could even start discussing ideas. The whole party was supposed to be a surprise, but I expected that we'd be doing something that they know I'd enjoy. Unfortunately, my sister pulled up to some sort of spa and planned to get nails done and some face masks and stuff like that. Afterward, we had a private photo shoot with lots of dresses for me. I mean, they were gorgeous, but not something I'd ever feel comfortable in. We ended it with a dinner at a fancy restaurant, where she pre-ordered dishes that had meat in it. I'm mostly vegan and she knows that. We'll discuss that later, chat, because I have an issue with that sentence right there. All of those were cool ideas, and I'm sure many brides would enjoy a bachelorette party like that. Hell, I planned one exactly like that for my sister or best friend, but it's just not me. I told her that I hated it, but I appreciate that she clearly put a lot of effort and money into the day. The others knew I wouldn't like it, so they planned another party yesterday, and that one couldn't have been better. We had a medieval dinner at a castle and they booked a cinema where we played video games and drank cocktails the whole day, but we, excluding my sister, and now she's really mad. In fact, my whole family is mad for having a second one and not being grateful for the one my sister planned for me. I can understand she's hurt and I feel horrible, so I consider repaying her the money she spent, but I'm not apologising for my interests. Shouldn't a bachelorette party be for the bride? And I was just honest when she asked me if I liked it, even though I do feel like I'm being an ungrateful butthole because she clearly put lots of effort into planning the day. So any thoughts? OP is off the following explanation for why they think they might be the butthole. One, I told my maid of honour that I hated my bachelorette party that she planned and had another one without her. Two, I think I might be the butthole for being ungrateful, since she puts lots of effort and money into planning the day and having another bachelorette party without her, even though she's my maid of honour, but she's also your sister too. Blanket statement 5 says, I planned one exactly like that for my sister. So your sister planned exactly the bachelorette that your sister would want, not what you would want. Not the butthole. Also, in my opinion, you need to fire as maid of honour and probably as a bridesmaid, because I bet a pretty penny that after feeling snubbed by the bachelorette situation, she will cause drama if she's allowed to make a speech. You also will need to tell the DJ to cut the mic off if she ever gets near her hands on it. Edit to add, you shouldn't feel guilty about the effort she spent planning. She spent that effort so she could have a day she would enjoy. All the reward is in the stuff that she got to do that day, and she is entitled to nothing else. And OP replies to that. Honestly, during the whole wedding planning process, I even thought about firing her, but it's kind of a family tradition to have the sister be the maid of honour. Never really asked her to be one, it was just kind of expected. The moment I told them about the engagement, everyone was like, oh my god, you're gonna be a maid of honour to her. And she started playing her duties. I'm already having an untraditional wedding, so I don't want to piss off everyone even more. But since they're already mad at me right now, maybe this is actually a good idea. I'd rather have them not be at the wedding than ruin it for everyone else who is there. You're probably right about it being a reward for her. She never really gets spas treatments, and she's the one who got the most photos taken at the shoot, frowning face. But she essentially paid for everyone, not just for her. Since she insisted on planning alone, they didn't split the cost like we agreed they would. Another one's commenter says, not to put all, your sister seriously does not know what you were into and what you eat. She sounds like she planned it for herself, not for you. She planned it without asking you what you want. Glad that one of your friends organised was better. Sadly, I think your sister is going to be sore about this for quite a while. She technically does know what my preferences are and what I eat. We had enough fights about that growing up, but she never really understood my interests, so I guess she didn't really think about it. And Catherine1971 says, everyone sucks here. Sis sucks for planning her ideal day rather than yours, especially the disrespectful lack of vegan food at dinner, which we're going to discuss in a minute. Guys, your friends suck for organising a second bachelorette party and excluding her. It could so easily have been just a friend's party, unrelated to the wedding, or branded as further festivities include the maid of honour. But no, they had to call it a bachelorette party and exclude one of the group. And you suck for not gracefully accepting the day planned by her sister and going along with the alternative bachelorette excluding maid of honour scheme. And I agree with this everyone sucks here comment. And we're going to talk about some things in this. First thing, the mostly vegan thing. There is no such thing as being mostly vegan. You either are vegan or you're not vegan. There's no I'm mostly vegan. You either don't eat animal products or you do eat animal products. There isn't a two ways about it kind of thing. It's an either or, right? So when Opie says they're mostly vegan, I feel like they're trying to really throw the sister under the bus there and make this like a vegan issue. And it really, really isn't, because if you're mostly vegan, that means sometimes you do eat animal products, things that come from animals and meat dishes and stuff. So you're not actually vegan. And it really annoys me when people do this with stuff. And it reminds me of a story from another Reddit post that I read a long time ago. And basically the story was that someone was organising a family dinner and one of the guests said they were vegan. So the person who was hosting the dinner went out of their way to make a 3-course vegan meal for them, because it was a 3-course family dinner. So all the family had meat dishes, etc. Starter, main course, dessert, right? And Opie, in that story, went out the way to make 3 vegan dishes, a starter, main, and dessert, right? Anyways, when it gets to the dessert, person who says that they were vegan started eating something, wanted to eat something that contained animal products. And OP was like, but you said you were vegan. You said that you want to eat vegan food, and I've gone out of my way to cook you all these vegan dishes, and you want to eat something with animal products in? And they were just like, oh yeah, well, I'm mostly vegan, but I eat animal products and meat stuff when I want. And OP was really upset and offended by that, because they put all this time and effort and stuff in. This is why I really have a problem with this. You're either vegan or you're not vegan, so I don't blame the sister for not having exclusively vegan food at all. Because OP even admits in the story that they're mostly vegan, which means they're not vegan at all, right? There's just no such thing. But apart from that part, let's get into it. The sister, who's the maid of honor, it's very, very hard to tell from the story, because OP says like, oh well, she should know my interests. We've argued about it enough growing up. But it sounds like OP didn't really have a conversation with them about it. But I would say it sounds like OP didn't really have a conversation about like their interests and stuff. It really doesn't seem like these sisters have a good relationship overall, from the way this post reads and everything. I'm gonna give the maid of honor 3 out of 10 buttholes, because she should have really tailored the day to OP, right? Like, she should have really tailored the day to OP and the things that she likes and everything like that. And I'm also going to give OP 6 out of 10 buttholes. 1 for the whole vegan thing, because she's not actually vegan. She just likes to eat mostly vegan dishes, right? But she still eats animal products and stuff. And OP admits to themselves that they weren't explicitly clear on what they wanted. And that's just weird and confusing. And it's understandable why the sister wouldn't have gone for vegan-only food when OP's giving off, like mixed signals and stuff. Also, the second bachelorette party, excluding her sister from that was exceptionally cruel. And I think that's like kind of the nail for it. That's the really cruel part, right? Is like, oh, you had this second party and event and you excluded your sister completely from it. And was like, nope, she's not attending, she's not welcome. And I think all the commenters are right about OP shouldn't invite his sister to the wedding. And it's not because I think the sister will cause drama. I think that if OP didn't even want to invite her to the second party and made her sister feel like she was unwelcome there, then why would the sister be welcome at the wedding, right? Just my opinion on that one. I don't know, guys, let me know what you guys think about this one down below, because it's very, very unclear of how much information that OP actually gave to her sister in this. And OP says that she didn't want her sister to be maid of honor, like she never asked her. But at no point during this entire wedding thing did OP put her foot down and just be like, you know what, I actually don't want you to be the maid of honor. I'd rather you were just the bridesmaid or just the guest. She didn't do that. She let her sister do all this stuff and never really said anything. And then again, about all this vegan food and stuff, she never really said anything. Even though OP isn't vegan, because she's only mostly vegan, which defeats the point of being vegan in the first place. Like, I don't keep going on about that, and I don't have problems with people's dietary restrictions and what they choose to eat and stuff. But if you have a dietary restriction or an ethical obligation or a dietary choice, right? Stick to it. Don't play games with people. That's not cool. But let me know, guys, what you think down below. And saving the best till last. This one comes from Lily off the Waterfalls. Am I the butthole for I, 29 female, husband 34 male, not to call his ex-wife his wife? Saw my husband Daniel for privacy, and I have been married for just under a year, and I love him very much. He has an 8-year-old daughter, Jane, for privacy, from his previous marriage, who I love as my own. He's always been respectful and patient, which is part of why I decided to marry him. We met right before the pandemic, when he had been recently widowed the year before. So we tried to take things slow. We ended up quarantining together, and after 3 years we decided to tie the knot. The wedding ceremony was everything a girl could dream of, and we've honestly had very few issues in our first year as a couple. It wasn't until we went to pick up Jen from her summer camp that I started to seeing an issue. I went to meet up with him at the front desk. I found him chatting with the camp coordinator, which is all well and good, until I overheard what he was saying. He mentioned that my wife made me this jacket. Actually, she was really good at all that sewing stuff. He was referring to his ex-wife, Alyssa, for privacy, not me. It bugged me a little, but I brushed it off as some one-time thing, an accident. We don't talk about Alyssa much unless we're around Jane, and even then he usually refers to her as Jane's mom. I never heard him call her his wife, especially now that we were married. It wasn't until a week or two later that I learned he does this a lot. We were at a get-together with some friends from work, my first time meeting them. It was all good until one of them asked me questions about baseball. I admit I didn't know much about the sport, and he said that was weird, because Daniel had mentioned I was really good at the game, and even played some in college. It left me very confused. After talking to some more guys, I found out this was a common issue. A lot of them thought Alyssa and I were the same person, because Daniel called us both his wife. At this point I got really offended. We'd been married for 10 months and he didn't even call Alyssa his ex-wife yet. I was super awkward and explained to people that he still called his ex-wife his wife was utterly humiliating, especially the amount he does it. Not just one or two people, but the whole office. When we got home we fought. He said he even didn't think about it in that way, that since he had never divorced Alyssa, he had never stopped thinking about her as his wife. He still stands by the fact that Alyssa is his wife, despite how embarrassing it is to explain to people that I'm not his second wife, but rather his new wife, and Alyssa is his ex. I told him that if he wasn't ready to move on, then he shouldn't have married me. If he can't commit to being my husband, then he shouldn't get to call me his wife. I spent the next night at my sister's house ignoring his calls. We recently started to smooth things over by not talking about them, but I can tell that this is going to be a sore spot in the marriage. I'm trying so desperately to save. I told you guys we were saving the best till last. So OP has offered the following explanation for why they think that might be the butthole. I stormed out on my husband, and I feel like I should have been more calm. Yeah, OP, that's not the reason why you're the butthole. But let's get into the comments. You're the butthole. She's not his ex. He is a widower. This is a whole world of difference between a marriage that ends in divorce and a marriage that ends in the death of one of the partners. If you can't cope with the fact that he can love both you and his late wife, then you shouldn't have married him. You were completely at fault here. And Bit of Faithlessness says, I totally agree with everything, except he could probably say late wife. This is only because it's starting to generally confuse people in his life. Anonymous Puffin 222 says, I'm going back and forth, but I think everyone sucks. Yeah. You have to stop saying ex-wife. They didn't divorce. You just have to stop using that term. However, she is his late wife, and you both need to start using that term to refer to her. It's disrespectful of you to call her his ex. It's disrespectful of him to talk about her in a way that makes people think you and her are the same person. She is his late wife. You are his current wife. It's not that complicated. And I agree to an extent here, but I don't agree with the last part, that it's not that complicated. This is complicated for OP's husband. It's not complicated for OP. She should call him his late wife, not the ex. But it is complicated on OP's husband's side, but we'll get to the end. So we have an update here from OP, which was posted 3 hours after the original post. Alright, I very clearly made a mistake with the language in this post. I was under the impression that an ex anything just referred to someone you were once with. And I'm just gonna say right now, guys, I call absolute bullcrap on that one. That everyone knows that you don't call someone who's a widow, you don't call them the ex, right? Right. But I am seeing now that for a lot of people, ex specifically means a breakup, which everyone knows. I've spoken to my husband and he says he doesn't use late wife because it immediately puts a dampener on the conversation. It makes people think of grief and loss, which is not always the best. We try to find a way to refer to Alyssa that is comfortable for both of us, as late wife is too heavy, ex-wife is too light, and first wife is apparently a no-go because he doesn't like the idea of numbering his wives. Albeit ex-wife isn't too light, ex-wife's just plain right disrespectful. I also see a lot of confusing comments which I will try to clear up. I am not trying to replace Alyssa. I would never ask Jane to call me mom. She calls me Lily, and I am not trying to erase Alyssa's memory either. She was a fantastic woman and a wonderful mother and wife. We have photos of her on our walls, we remember her all the time, and Dan makes sure to raise Jane in a household where she knows how loved she is by everyone, including Alyssa, and I respect that completely. They had a life before me, they were a family before me, and I am not trying to take that from them. I admit I was definitely a butthole in how I behaved, but I was never asked to be put above Alyssa as a wife. Just that my husband would have the respect for me to differentiate us. So that was the small update from OP that they posted in the comments. And OP is definitely the butthole in this one. And I'm not going to adjust my score because of the update, because I feel like that's a very, very fast 180 from the position that they had in the post. And it came very, very shortly afterwards of them posting, right? It's a very, very short time frame of 3 hours, right? And yeah. And she also still doesn't acknowledge that ex-wife. The term is disrespectful, right? So I'm very, very unclear on this one if OP's getting what people are trying to say to her. And I can understand why he doesn't want first wife and second wife, because numbering your wives is not a good way to look at stuff. This is wife 1, this is wife 2, this is wife 3, right? It's not a good habit to get into. I do agree that OP's husband does need to differentiate between them. That is something for sure. And if they can come up with a way of doing that that's respectful to Alyssa and also is respectful to OP, that's great. But I don't think people, the office people, were confused because of that. Like, OP says they got together during the pandemic, so she won't have met the office staff. And now it's after the pandemic, right? Everything's open up and she's meeting all the office people. And OP doesn't say that she's met them before. Well, if she'd met them before, they would know that she's his current wife, right? So it makes sense that they would be a bit confused because they've known OP's husband for longer, and you don't really talk about personal relationships at work. That's just not a thing you do. So unless OP was like, oh, I don't know, I don't think you would announce at the office, like, oh, hey guys, by the way, my wife Alyssa died, so yeah, sorry to bum you all out and everything. And then be like, years later or however long it was. Because we really don't have a time frame on when OP's husband's first wife actually died. So we don't know how long ago it was. But then it wouldn't be also like OP's like in the office like, oh, by the way, guys, you know how my first wife died? Well, I got remarried. I got a new wife now called Lily. I don't know. I just don't think that's something you would do in the office. So it's understandable why the office people maybe wouldn't know, because it's not really something that's appropriate to talk about in an office space. Like, the only one who would ever really know is probably OP's husband's boss, right? If he had to take time off for grieving and stuff, and to plan the funeral and everything and all that. They would be, like, really the only people that would know. But for this one, I'm going to give OP 6 out of 10 buttholes, because the way she talks about her husband's late wife is very, very disrespectful. It's not kind. And in the argument that she had with him, if she was using the words ex-wife and stuff, that's very hurtful and disrespectful. And I'm going to give OP's husband a very, very soft 1 out of 10 buttholes for not differentiating. A very, very soft. Because I can understand his point of view. He had a wife that he loved very dearly, and she unfortunately died. And in that situation, you didn't break up, you didn't divorce, you didn't separate because you no longer loved each other or didn't get along or there was infidelity or something. You separate, your relationship ended because that person died. And, the feelings of love and stuff for that person won't go away. And for OP's husband, Alyssa will always be his wife. And I know to other people that might be different. They'll be like, oh, well, now she's just a late wife. But when you're the person in the relationship, it's a lot different. Alyssa will always be his wife. Alyssa will always be the mother of his child, Chen, right? A child that he loves, clearly. And that'll never change or go away. Those feelings won't go away. And that doesn't mean that OP's husband doesn't love OP. It just means that it's not as simple as people like to try and make it out to be, where it's just, oh, they're dead now, get over it. And that's it, all your feelings for them go, and you'll never consider them to be what they were. Like, I feel like people who are like that, they're very cold, and I don't understand it. I don't care whether it's a year, 10 years, or 30 years. They'll always be in your heart, if that makes sense. So that's why I'm giving him a soft 1 out of 10 buttholes. I think he should differentiate, and if they can find a way of doing that that's respectful for both, then I can understand that. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think about all of the stuff that we've covered today down below in the comments. I appreciate all of you hanging out. Like, comment, share, and subscribe as always, and I will see you guys in the next one.